Tiger fans, what's going on? Monday, December 1st, 2025, one of the biggest days in LSU football history. Lane Kiffin being named as his 37th head coach in Tigers history. Just absolutely special. I think a lot of people are still kind of pinching themselves, not even realizing if this is real or not. It was pretty crazy seeing old Lane on that stage today with all the LSU background, and he had his LSU lapel pin on and purple tie, and it's just like, wow, holy crap, this is crazy. And so, real quick, as always, brought to you by Revel Asphalt Services. Dear friend Millard Morrison, doing the best job in the area. Holiday season coming up. There's nothing like giving the gift of asphalt, and so they're going to take care of you, real quality. On time, on budget, treat you like family. That's why they have so many people coming back all the time. 225-773-3990. Thanks to Millard as always. And so, just a quick little recap of what was going on today. Lane Kiffin introduced as the Tigers head coach. You had a few words from Dr. Wade Roos, and then Verge Osbury came in, and he had a very nice speech, a very powerful speech. Just in the power of the Tiger and just how much he cares about LSU, having been around for 40 years, essentially playing linebacker and then being an administrative assistant and now the athletic director. And look, I think a lot of people were a little skeptical a couple of weeks ago when Verge was named athletic director. And then he went on and said, we're going to go and hire the best football coach in the country. And we didn't really knew what that meant, but we know what that means now. And so, short of maybe Kirby Smart on the defensive side of the ball, you're not going to find any better than Lane Kiffin, what he's done at Ole Miss the past 6 years, 3 straight 10-win seasons, 4 in 6 years, 4 of the 11 10-win seasons they've had. He's really done an incredible job, and he's taken advantage of what college football has been like the past few years, particularly with the transfer portal and NIL. And, Ole Miss statistically was never a great high school recruiting kind of program, but Lane really took advantage of the transfer portal and, was successfully able to continue to turn his roster around every year and win every year. And so I think that was kind of a big thing with his decision to come to LSU, was that not only can you recruit the state of Louisiana, build in the trenches throughout cities, New Orleans, Lafayette, Shreveport, Monroe. I don't need to tell you all of them, Alexandria. Build through that, make sure that you have the program set, that you have your Louisiana kids that are sticking around for a couple years and developing. And then you go and get your big timers in the portal. And so Lane Kiffin was known as the portal king at Ole Miss. And I just find that very fascinating because Brian Kelly, he had a real nice haul in the portal last year. That was not something he was used to. It was not something that LSU was used to. But when you think about some of the guys that he brought in, whether it was a Mansour Delane or, a Pyburn, a Peyton, obviously the safeties, Halsey and Cooley. They did a really nice job in the portal, but there's no denying that Lane Kiffin is the portal king. And so it's going to be fun to see what he's going to do in January with that 2-week window. And then obviously just tons of money. $25 million is the number. And so it sounds like that's going to be an annual basis thing that the Tigers are going to have. And so it's just been a fantastic last 48, 72 hours. Stressful just because you didn't know exactly what was going on. Everybody had sources, but you didn't know what was what, who was real, who wasn't. But all you know is that the concrete evidence is there. Lane Kiffin was at LSU today being introduced as head coach. And it sounds like he's already hit the ground running. You saw videos last night of him FaceTiming recruits and just getting with, Frank Wilson, and just the opportunity to get ahead because he knows how quickly things move. And so with early signing day on Wednesday through Friday, you got to make moves. And so Lane, he's hitting the ground running. And so just some cool things from his press conference that you just really don't see a lot. And you think about it and you talk about it with people and you write about it in podcasts and stuff. But it was really refreshing to hear Lane Kiffin say that LSU is just different. LSU is a different place. It's the best. And according to someone that's very close to him, that was a head coach, that used to be a head coach, said it's the best job in all of football. And so I think we can probably leave that up to Saban. But it was just a big decision for Lane. He had offers from obviously Ole Miss. It looks like Florida. And he kept talking about a fourth team. I would assume that that's Auburn. I'm not 100% sure. But basically it boiled down to it wasn't about the money, particularly on a salary basis. It was about what can you give me NIL package-wise. And it sounds like what LSU offering was just absolutely blew the other offers out the water. And so to him, it's about getting the best players. And that, that's what you need. You need the Jims and Joes. You need the dudes. And so he knows that. And he's going to have every opportunity to do that, whether it's recruiting from a local level that coaches have been doing for 30 years, starting with Jerry DiNardo, getting Kevin Falk and Booger McFarland. I mean, that was kind of the start of the LSU football renaissance, particularly in keeping kids in Louisiana. You weren't losing your Warwick Dunns, your Travis Miners, your Reggie Waynes, your Ed Reeds. I mean, we lost some big cats. And so thankfully that hadn't happened much, but it was a problem under Brian Kelly. And I think he masked it really well, but especially with how well he did in the portal last year. But he just wasn't able to connect with the state of Louisiana, the way that the players grow up wanting to be a Tiger, wearing that purple and gold, and just the fans. It's really a politician job. It's no different than being a senator, a congressman, even a governor. I mean, you need to shake a bunch of hands and you have to kiss babies. And so Lane Kiffin, I think he understands that. And so I think we have the right guy at the right time. I think he emphasized that as much because with his conversations with his mentor, like Nick Saban and Pete Carroll, he was talking about how, they would say that especially Pete Carroll, his father, would tell him to take the job. Certainly he had a very strong relationship with his father, who's no longer with us. And so he was trying to channel a lot of things from him. And so I think he just truly believed that this is where he needed to be next moving forward. And as LSU fans, we couldn't be happier. And, Ole Miss fans, they were very upset, as they should have been. And so, but I think Lane made a good point, is that, why are they so upset? Well, I mean, they're so upset because, there's a winning product out there. And so if Ole Miss sucked, nobody would care if Lane left. But so now it's just one of those things. And so just continuing through the press conference, it was just really awesome to hear Lane talk about just the power of LSU, the power of the brand, the best program in college football. That he was asked about, his tutelage, his understudy of being in the Bryles offense and how he's just kind of connected and molded things. And he just really, really kind of not just NIL, but also boiling down to putting together a scheme that has been so successful wherever he's been. And then you put that with the Louisiana athletes, particularly at wide receiver. I mean, I don't need to name you the Malik Neighbors, the Odell Beckhams, the Jamar Chases, Justin Jeffersons. And so hell of a stable next year. Harlan Berry, you think, would be coming back. Hopefully you're going to get Caden Durham back. And then Lacey from Ole Miss, that's a possibility too. I mean, he's a dog. And so wouldn't that be fun to see that trio? I mean, that kind of reminds you of those old Rondell Mealy, Kevin Falk, Cecil Collin days. And so, look, we've got a little ways to go. It's only December 1st, but this is the best time to talk about it. And so in the meantime, Frank Wilson will be the interim coach for the bowl game. And so I think it just seems like Frank Wilson, he's going to stay on. I think he has to stay on. A lot of people would agree with that. Just with his connections, his ability to walk into basically any school in Louisiana, particularly in New Orleans, and, get the best players. You couldn't ask for anything more. I mean, recruiting coordinator, so Lane comes in and he's got this big, huge help on the side of him, and you couldn't ask for anything more. They worked together in 2009 at Tennessee, so the history is there. So, yeah, I mean, just fantastic. Verge Osbury, huge attraction to Lane Kiffin. Just the way that he told it how it was. There was no bullshit. There was no sugarcoating. He got straight to the point. There wasn't a lot of conversation, and Lane really appreciated that. And so I think just with the ability to attract the athletes, and then the way that the NIL was set up, it just was a no-brainer for Lane. And so he even told a funny story that he was driving around. He was passing Tiger Stadium with his family. He was sitting in the front seat. He gave old Interim Eddie a call, and he said, look, I'm going to start talking like you. I'm just feeling it so much here. And, Orgeron, just being himself, probably said a couple other things, but just really said, you're in the best place in America. This is the best place to coach in college football, and certainly one of the best places in all of football. And so you just heard more about the power of LSU, the brand, and that extends to other sports too. I mean, LSU's obviously had an incredible football program, particularly the last 25 years. But you think about what's going on with baseball. Not bad, winning 2 national championships in 3 years. Kim Mulkey winning a national championship. You got guys like Shaq representing the basketball program. And then basketball right now is, I think, 19 in net ranking, 6-0. So, DJ Thomas looks phenomenal, could lead the SEC in assists. And so that's something that we're going to continue to look forward to, because there's nothing better than having a little basketball just to kind of bridge that gap between here and baseball. And then obviously you get into the summer, and then, before you know it, it's going to be football season. And then you think about the guys that Kiffin is going against next year. I mean, he's going to have Clemson coming to LSU, the real Death Valley. He's going to have Texas and Arch Manning coming to Death Valley. He's going to have Alabama coming to Death Valley. He's going to go to Ole Miss. He's going to have A&M coming to Death Valley. And so, God, you can't make this stuff up. And so it just really gets you excited. I think if you're a Tiger fan, I think it was one of those things where you just felt relieved, because for years now, you just felt like you always had your hand tied behind your back with the coach, maybe because he wasn't an expert on either side of the ball. And so he was always relying on his offense or defensive coordinators coming and going, firing, taking other jobs. That's not a healthy way to live. And so when you think about the fact that it sounds like Blake Baker is going to be staying on, you add that to a Lane Kiffin offense, Charlie Weiss offensive coordinator, and then Blake Baker. I mean, what a season he's had. I mean, if he had any kind of offense, LSU would be doing something right now. And so that's all frustrating, but I think 15th in points per game, that's really what you want. Bend but don't break, be aggressive, make big plays, get after the quarterback, but also just keep the points to a minimum. And so LSU didn't have the opportunity this year to keep up. I mean, they haven't scored a single point over 25 for an FBS school this year. I mean, that's just remarkable. That just goes to show how bad the offense was. And so what a waste. What a waste, because you went in thinking that you had a ton of talent. You had a 5th-year quarterback. But look, that's in the past now. And so now we got to think about, all right, what are we moving forward with? Lane Kiffin, he really, his bread and butter is establishing the run. And so, like I mentioned, the running backs, now he's got to go get an offensive line. And so I think the thing is, and people have made a great point, is that I don't think LSU is lacking for offensive line talent. I think Brad Davis was recruiting at a very high level, 4 and 5 stars left and right. It was just the development that never took place. And I think that's why ultimately, unfortunately, that's why Brad Davis will not be here next year. So you need somebody to come in and really get those offensive linemen up to speed, but then also to collaborate and make sure that they're on the same page for what Lane wants to do on offense, because it is fast pace, and LSU is not used to that. I think we're going to be very excited about it. And so best offense philosophy, arguably in college football right now. And then you add that to the talent that the Tigers will bring in through Louisiana, through high school recruiting, whether that's Texas, could be a Mississippi, a Florida, but then the transfer portal. And so then you start to look at, okay, quarterbacks. And so that's going to be a lot of fun because Kiffin's one of those guys where he basically needs to be married to his quarterback. They have to be completely on the same page. And so whoever he brings in, maybe it's a Sam Levitt from Arizona State. Maybe it's Chambliss from Ole Miss, depending on if he gets an extra year of eligibility. But the fact remains is that they're going to be on the same page. And so Kiffin's not going to put a shitty product out there unless he knows what's going to happen. And so, look, we have a lot of time to digest all of this, but we have early signing day Wednesday through Friday, and then portal January. But there's going to be so much news breaking, guys leaving, guys coming in. Still need to hear about several assistants. Hopefully Frank's back. Sounds like Blake Baker's going to be back. Makes you think about a guy like Corey Raymond. I think he would be very smart to stay on. We got rid of him a couple years ago, and our defensive back, cornerback play on the field and recruiting really suffered. And so I think keeping Corey Raymond, who a lot of people consider the godfather of DBU, would be smart to keep him on. And so, yeah, you keep on Frank, you keep on Blake Baker and Corey Raymond, and then it sounds like they're just going to fill in the rest. And, God, it's just really exciting times. I think, just basically boiling it down from 10,000 feet, Lane Kiffin could not be happier to be at LSU. I don't think he wanted to do it at the expense of Ole Miss and the shit that it caused. But look, it is what it is. He went from being booed last night to being cheered. And so I think he's going to be doing just fine. And so things are going to move fast. And, but yeah, the power of LSU. You always thought that Lane kind of had an eye for LSU, whether it was when he was the OC at Alabama. He had some really great games against LSU in Death Valley Saturday night, 2014. I think that game went to overtime. In 2016, it was 10-0. But Lane got the impression of what it was like. And then his games, obviously, with Ole Miss coming into town, and then that game-winning touchdown with Kyron Lacey, calling Baton Rouge. It's just a special place. And he said that multiple times. And so I think it was good to hear that, just in the sense that, that he wasn't just moving on just to move on. He's truly excited to be here. And I would anticipate we'll be here for quite some time. Is he going to go somewhere else? Possibly. He's 50, but I think everybody needs to calm down and realize that this gentleman's going to be at LSU for at least the next 6 to 7 years. And so hopefully some serious damage will be done in that time. But look, I'm going to wrap it up here. Just a great day, great 48 hours to be a Tiger. Wasn't a great 6 weeks or so with what happened with Kelly and Verge and the governor. And hey, look, shout out to Governor Landry. It sounds like he made a big move here with Lane Kiffin. And so look, he may have made a fool of himself a few weeks ago, but he redeemed it. So all hands on deck. Lane Kiffin is a fighting Tiger. That's really something. And so keep it to Boot Crew Media. We're going to have more news, particularly when news breaks out, we'll break in. Like I said, flips, commitments, lots should be happening. We'll see who's coming on, coaches coming, coaches leaving. And then before you know it, we're going to be looking at a bowl game. And then it just moves fast. And so we just appreciate y'all being here on Boot Crew Media. Thanks to Justin. Thanks for the team. Just an honor to be here. What a time to be at Boot Crew Media. And it's just going to continue to grow. I don't know if anybody saw, but Lane Kiffin, he reshot a screenshot on his story from Boot Crew Media. And so it was his statement, but it was Boot Crew Media saying it. And very, very cool. And so millions of people saw that. And so what we have going on here at Boot Crew Media is special. And so to have Lane Kiffin come on at this time, pretty awesome. So look, I'll leave it there. We're going to have more for you throughout the week. Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, check us out. But God, it really feels good. Haven't been able to say this with a lot of pride lately, but go Tigers.